Hello, good evening. Much heat, though not enough light, has so far been generated in the recent public debates on the role of the elected president. On the one hand, we have Law Minister Shanmugam saying at the recent forum, "Our presidency is created by the Constitution. This means that the Constitution alone can be the source of his powers." On the other hand, Law Professor Teo Lee An has said that the Constitution is not exhaustive as presidential powers may be found in two further sources. First, long practice. For example, we are all familiar with the president's role in promoting charitable causes and in fostering community bonding. But you cannot find mention of these roles in our Constitution. Second, there are also written guidelines or rules of engagement between the government and the president that has been worked out in the interest of a harmonious working relationship. These written arrangements are outside of the Constitution. These two legal eagles seem to have opposite views. So people are still unsure about the extent and limits of the elected president. But what everyone agrees and what it is clear to me is that the president is the representative and guardian of the people's interests. He symbolizes and represents the whole country. He must be the unifier of all the various sectors of society in Singapore. He must be above politics. Now, of the other candidates apart from Jisei, all of them were active members of the PAP for a decade or more. And two of them were politicians holding political office for long periods of time. For example, Tan King Lian was a member of the PAP for 30 years before he resigned in 2008. For 10 years, he was an active PAP member for the Marine Parade constituency. He was the PAP's branch secretary at Marine Parade for 3 years. Tan Cheng Bock was MP for Ayer Rajah SMC for 26 years. He was also the first non-cabinet minister elected into the PAP's Central Executive Committee, which is the highest ruling committee within the PAP, where he served for 19 years. Representing the PAP, Tan Cheng Bock has fought no less than 6 contested general elections. I think I am not wrong to say that Tan Cheng Bock is a veteran politician and an active, long-standing member of the PAP. Tony Tan Keng Yam. Has been a PAP member since 1979 till this year, June, for more than 30 years. Representing the PAP, he became MP in 1979 and was MP for the next 27 years. From 1980 to 1991, Tony Tan Keng Yam was in the cabinet where he served as Minister for Education, Minister for Trade and Industry, Minister for Finance, and Minister for Health. From 1995 to 2005, he rejoined the cabinet where he served as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence. Apart from being a PAP old guard, Tony Tan was, until 1st July 2011, Executive Director and Deputy Chairman of the GIC. And Chairman of Singapore Press Holdings. According to Dr. Tony Tan, he said, the elected president has to be above politics. He needs to work with the government of the day and all political parties, including the opposition, civic and social organizations, and he cannot take a partisan view. According to Dr. Tony Tan, he is equal to this role despite his 30 years membership in the PAP, despite having been an MP for 27 years, despite being a cabinet minister for 2 periods of 10 years each, and despite having been at the helm of the GIC and the SPH until last month. Dr. Tony Tan has assured voters that if elected, he would be independent. Tan Ji say, much has been said of the fact that he contested on the opposition ticket in the last GE. But let us put things in context. Ji Say's stint as a politician lasted less than 4 months, from early April to July. Previous to joining SDP in April this year, Ji Say had spoken up at forums and other places to share his views in his personal capacity and representing only himself. By no means he can be described as having any kind of political career apart from those 3.5 months with SDP. Is Ji Say partisan? He was a member of SDP for only 3.5 months. The other 3 candidates have been PAP members for decades. Well, I think it is fair to say that of the 4, Ji Say is by comparison the least partisan and hence the most likely to be able to act independently. I come back to Dr. Tony Tan's words. He said that the president needs to be able to work with the government of the day. On this point, it is to be noted that Ji Say was the member of the civil service for 11 years, including 6 years in the Ministry of Trade and Industry. He was also serving as the then Deputy Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong's Principal Private Secretary for 5 years. I'm sure that in the many years that Ji Say spent in the civil service, he would have made a lot of friends and acquaintances, and he would also have acquired a deep understanding of how the civil service is organized and run. After 11 years in the civil service, he entered the private sector. In the private sector, he worked in the finance industry for a decade. So Ji Say has experienced how it is like to work in the public sector as well as the private sector. Again, I come back to Dr. Tony Tan's words. He said that the president must be able to work with all political parties, including the opposition, civic and social organizations. Let us not forget that in the last GE, 40% of the votes went to the opposition. That is a sizable proportion of Singaporeans. Now, G-Say's short stint as an opposition politician puts him in a unique position. He is someone who has spent long years in the civil service, including 5 years working with Goh Chok Tong. He has also spent many years in the finance industry of the private sector. Yet, he has also spent time with members of the opposition. Many prominent civil activists and social workers are his personal friends. In him, I feel, can be found the best hope of being a unifier and the most representative of all Singaporeans. Whether you voted PAP or not, whether you agree or disagree with this or that government policy, we are all Singaporeans. Today in Singapore, we have the privilege and the dilemma of having to choose between 4 qualified candidates for the top post of president. To me, G-Say offers the best chance for a truly independent, non-partisan, unifying president. Because his political career lasted less than 4 months, I have faith that if elected, G-Say will not be pro-opposition, or for that matter, pro-PAP. He will be pro-Singaporeans. I have the confidence that G-Say will be fair and impartial, and he will uphold the dignity of the office of the presidency. On top of it all, G-Say has shown me that he has the passion to serve Singapore. So without skipping a heartbeat, my vote is for Tan G-Say.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next speaker is a communication professional with a decade of experience in senior management position with multinational agencies. Affectionately known to the community as the TV strongman after launching and leading 2 Malay channels. He had his start as an education officer and is trained in law and holds a master's degree. He has been an active community and youth leader for over 20 years and was formerly a young PAP branch chairman in the early 90s. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Fahmi Rais.